Okay. Anyways, those of you that are 5 of you, if you would stay here so that there's not a big blank spot on the recording that just now started. So I will just have to paste Becky's video in the front part. Wow, that was bad of me. Okay. So Annie, Ann with an E, Armand and Melissa, stay here. Everybody else go to your breakout rooms and I will see you back at 10:30.
Excuse me.
I'm so glad that's over.
Does that mean that was hard?
You did really well. You did really well.
All right. So what is the one thing to get better so that you're really comfortable with listing appointments? What's the one thing you can do?
Practice.
Go out and do it. Practice, practice.
Practice.
I need to redo my presentation because one of the things, I don't have all the pages in it. I kind of streamlined it, and I'm starting to see how that's a little bit of a mistake.
Awesome.
Number 2 that I learned is that, especially at first, probably the best thing to do is to take the presentation and turn page 1 at a time, because it'll keep you on track. And you can skip the pages that you don't, that don't apply to that particular presentation if you want to.
Yes, you can also have them there, right? You can just say, and now I'm going to leave this with you, and this page is going to tell you all about this, right? And then move on. Like if it's not something that warrants a conversation, you want to leave it with them. That there's something about figuring out, you know, part of that pre-qualifying, when you're talking on the phone with someone, you're finding out what their motivation is and you're scheduling the appointment, you're also getting to know the person just a little bit. You can tell if they're straight and to the point or if they're going to need a lot of detail and hand holding, right? You can usually identify that quickly in a conversation, right? So you're going to know how much you need. I love what you said, Armand. Just don't shortchange it. Like, don't assume that they know how this process works, right? And it also gives you an opportunity to continue to get to know them and to set them up. Because if you remember in this video, and I know it was staged and it was role play, but this is how it works. She had the intention in the beginning of interviewing other agents. And when she got to the end, she was ready to sign. It was because she was you matter, and you're going to sign this agreement. We're going to get you what you need. You matter, and we're going to continue, you know, we're going to sign this. Go back through and watch the video again. Remember, that video is at indymetropc.com, and there is the next video, which is the listing documents. We're not going to go through that one today, but that's where she just walks the seller through the listing document so that they know exactly what to expect. So please watch that. And I'm going to work on getting you a couple other examples of listing presentations that you can model after, because, you know, there are 200 agents in the South office, and I think 200, I don't even know how many in the North office. I don't know how many are in the Louisville office. The point is there are lots of different real estate agents, and every one of them has their own style for doing this, but everyone that's doing this at a high level practices and does and goes through the process. Like, they don't shortchange the process. If I listed a property for my friends, when I took my kids out for first-time home buyers, I made them sit through the entire buyer presentation, right? I walked them through it. Don't shortchange your clients just because you think they don't need to know, right? That's not actually our responsibility. We have a fiduciary responsibility to educate, right? And make sure that our clients have all the information they need. So set a goal for yourself this week to make sure you have your listing presentation ready, right? And to practice. So even if you come to script practice in the morning, you don't want to practice setting appointments, practice your this. You just have to practice it. You can even practice it. You know what? You can go on the Zoom, okay? Set up your own account, 40 minutes, right? You can just have it with yourself, right? And it'll record it and then you can listen to it back, right? Or you can do it with your phone and record it and listen to it back. Something just to get to the comfort. You know, if you have, you know, a spouse at home or children at home or a dog at home, I don't know, you know, practice. So that's that part. Now, the other part is the pricing. And that's the other thing that I think a lot of people get a little anxious about. Is that a fair assumption?
Yeah, yeah.
So who sets the price?
The market.
Your client does.
The client does.
Your client is with your education, right? But who ultimately sets what it will sell for?
The market.
The market.
The
right?
buyer.
Yes, the market. So we have to make sure that our seller understands that. I understand that that's the price that you would want, but the market is actually going to determine how much you can sell your home for. And you're part of the market, right? Because the definition of market value is what a willing buyer and a willing seller with all equal motivations would agree to, right? So the seller is part of the market, but the buyer is also part of the market. And we need to help them understand that. We also need to help them understand that if we overprice the property, it will set on the market. People won't come see it and nobody will make offers. The longer it sets on the market, people start assuming what?
Something's wrong with it.
Something's wrong with it. Now the price comes down. So if we ask for too much, right, and we have no showings and we have no interest, then your resulting price when you leave the closing table is going to be lower than if we get it right the first time. Okay. Now, if we price it too low, particularly in this market, what might happen is most likely to happen is what?
Multiple offers.
We're going to have multiple offers and the market's going to correct it for us, right? So we have to be very cautious about overpricing it, but we don't have to be quite so concerned about underpricing it because the market will correct, okay? So you guys know my number one tactic for this is that we figure out what it is and we have a conversation. As long as the seller's close and they want to stretch a little bit and see if they can get a little bit extra, I will agree to that as long as they agree with me that if we don't have X number of showings in the first 24 hours, we can automatically price drop. And that way we don't run the risk of them not getting the money that they should be getting at closing because it's been on the market too long. But we still have to figure out what that is, right? We need to figure out what that range is. And it really is a range, right? Because what happens if the buyer and the seller determine that they're willing to sell and buy for 275 and the appraiser comes back and says it's 270, what is it?
Overpriced. Correct.
70.
Well, depending on their lender, so, or if they have the money to pay
No.
the extra.
Market value is still
270.
270. Right? Because the market value ultimately is determined. The price is determined by the buyer and seller. The market value is determined by the appraiser and his opinion, right? So that's how that works. Then we know our buyer may be paying over market value, right? If they throw in the cash to get up to it. So that's where we are in the market right now. All right. So I'm going to share a few things. I'm going to tell you how I do it. Okay. And I know if you guys have had the CMA class with Scott Smith, I know he doesn't do it the way I do it. And that is one thing that's important to know is that there's more than one way, right? So I think that's the screen. All right, we'll get out of that. So there's that listing document video, okay? So it's right here. If you go to Resources for Members in your Indy Metro PC, these videos are right here under instructional videos. Becky did one for a buyer's presentation. Becky did one we just watched, and then she did one for the listing documents. So that's where you find those. Okay. All right, we don't need my command. We need my MyBore. Okay, so my MyBore. My number one thing I do when I am going to list a property is I'm going to go to RPR. Okay. RPR. Yep. RPR is it does a computer generated valuation. Okay. So if we were to put in my address, just because I know it and it's easy. If we were to put in my address, this is going to come up a little bit different because I've done this before, and I'll actually show you the report, right? But it came up with a computer generated value of 210. Okay. However, the problem with the 210 was when I went down here, it didn't know how many bedrooms. It thought I only had one bathroom. I actually have 2.5 bathrooms. No, that's fun. It's still not right. 2.5 bathrooms, right? So it didn't have the information correct. So you have to make those changes, right? And then when you make those changes, it's going to come up with a refined value. And it's also going to tell you here how confident it is in the value that it's picked, okay? And it's going to tell you if it's gone up or down in the last month, what's happening in the market in the area, okay? It's going to tell you the most last price, the last time it changed. And then you have the ability to do a comp analysis. And you can go into the comp analysis, maybe, and you can go here and you can choose comps, right, that are actually comparable to the property. I don't do that to start with. What I do to start with is I go in here and I just do this part. Okay. Now I'm going to go into matrix. So I'm going to go into my MyBore and I'm going to search. And when I search, I'm going to search around my property.
How far out do you go on your first search, Carla?
I start at 1/4 mile, right? Well, at 1/4 mile, it didn't pick the address up here. At 1/4 mile, it's only going to pull up 3, and I'm doing 180 days. So I'm looking for everything active, everything pending, and everything that's sold in the last 6 months. And it's only going to pick up 3. Well, I don't think I'm going to be able to do a very good job with 3. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to pull that out to 1/2 mile and see what that looks like. But this is really property specific, right? Because if you're pricing out a property that's out in the country, right? How far? You might have to go 5 miles, right? You know, like there might be 1/2 mile between every house. So you just have to go as far out as you need to in order to get a nice thing. Now, sometimes I don't do this. So here, let me go here first for a second. So we have our results, and then I'm going to go up here and I'm going to make it agent brief because I want to see the pictures and I want to see what looks comparable to the one that I have. And then I'm going to choose the ones that I think are comparable. And my house is probably a bad example, but we're going to pick a few here. So we found 3 or 4 that we thought were really comparable. And then I'm just going to go down here and hit quick CMA. And quick CMA is what Becky uses in her presentation. You know how she had that one sheet where she told them there wasn't anything currently on the market. There was 1 pending, and then there were 2 that sold or 3 that sold, and then she walked them through it. Right? So then you're going to get this. And so you're going to get this range here of a per square foot value. We're going to be able to see the square footage, and then you're going to see the number of days on market. And then you're also going to have some averages down here. So unfortunately, there's no magic button. You have to sort of analyze this and make sense of it in your brain and how it fits. Now, another thing is if you're lucky enough to be listing a house that's in a subdivision, that's even better, right? So let's say we were pricing out a property that is in a subdivision and it's Holly Hills. And we only want to look for, it's a ranch, right? So we only want to compare ourselves to ranches, right? So we're going to pick in, do you guys know this about the legal description? If you put in the wild card and then a little bit of the legal description, neighborhood name, and the wild card, that's better than putting it in at subdivision, just because not every agent fills in the subdivision but they should be putting in the legal description. So you should be able to capture. So here, there were 5 ranches that sold in the last 6 months in Holly Hills. So when we pull on it and we go over here and we look at agent brief, now we're in a neighborhood where it's pretty homogeneous. So, right, this is going to be a lot easier. We like them all. So we're going to go up here and we're going to click on all. And then we're going to go down here and do quick CMA. And these are going to be very helpful because this is a neighborhood where we love neighborhoods. So look at this. They're all pretty tight in their square footage, right? They were all built about the same time. Here is our range on a per square foot basis, right? Here's the list price, and here's the days on market, okay? What does this one here tell you about Hearthstone? I haven't even looked at the pictures, and I can tell you the story here.
It was probably a fixer-upper or investment, something like that, distressed property.
It's in bad shape, right? It was 32 days on market. 1, 3, 2, 32 days on market, right? The lowest of the per square foot. So I'm probably gonna throw that one out, right? I'm probably not gonna like that one. Now, same thing down here, right? We've got the same thing going on down here, 20 days on market, right? And $98 a square foot. So I'm gonna go in and look at the pictures of these three, and I'm gonna see how these three compare to the one that I'm gonna go see. And I'm gonna have a pretty tight range here. So let's say I have a 1,400 square foot house, I'm gonna multiply it by 130, and that's gonna tell me what my number is. Do you see why? It's not an exact science. You just have to look at it, and then you have to go back. Let's go back and look at these pictures. So here's Hearthstone. Let's see if we can tell why it was a problem. Well, I don't know. It's got pretty nice kitchen. It's got hardwood floors. Well, I'm not sure why that one sold so low. Right? That one doesn't tell. I kind of like that one. Let's see what this one looked like. This one was one at the 130 range.
It might have been the realtor.
It might have been the realtor. Yeah, because, well, this one's a little bit more updated. We got can lights in the ceiling, so it's been pretty updated. So that's one of the
I'm
ones.
pretty sure it was the pink garage floor. That's why.
Absolutely could be. Here we only have a one-car garage, right? So we only have a one-car garage on this one, but it's got granite and farmhouse sink, and it's been way upgraded, right? So that one's really updated. Then we have,
Sometimes it could be pet smells too.
it could be all kinds of things, except for it was priced. So, so this one, so we know what those are. And here's the other one that was at 98. Let's see if we can tell. Well, it's got can lights in it too. So I really can't tell you why those two sold at 98 and 130, but I'm going to have that conversation, right? So I'm going to have that conversation with my client when I go to sit down with them and I walk around their house, and I'm going to go, well, all right, here we got a little anomaly going on right here. And you happen to live on Hearthstone, and I'm not really sure what's happening because we have one on Hearthstone, right? And we do know that these two are bigger. That's 1,600 and that's 1,900, right? Bigger houses usually sell for less per square foot. So if we're closer to the 1,800 square feet, then maybe we're going to be closer to the 100 per square foot, right? But we just have to go through this process. So it's not a one size fits all, right? It's not perfect. You get oddball properties, right? You get doubles, triplexes, right? Triplexes. What are we going to do if we have a triplex? Do you think there's going to be a lot of those in a 1 mile radius? No. So we're going to have to look at lots of market factors, right? We're going to have to go out and we're going to have to look at what the rent is, right? What could the rent be, right? Yep. Armand's got the 10 up, right? So we're going to go look at the rent, right? And we know that it's 10s that's going to get us there. That's going to get us in the ballpark if we know what the rent is. Now, what if it doesn't have a rental history? Where are we going to get rent?
Oh, you don't put sell. You put
Lease.
you don't even put anything. You don't check mark in that box or highlight whatever.
So you're looking for leased properties in the multiple, but what if there aren't any leased properties in the multiple listing service around that property?
Go out further.
You may have to go look at apartments, right? Remember the principle of substitution? Nobody's going to pay more rent for this property than they can get rent from somewhere else for something comparable. So we're going to have to go out and look at rental properties. We're going to have to look at market rent. That's going to be much more complicated. What about land? What if you have a lot price?
That's going to be way too low though, isn't it? Land.
If you're just looking for land, if you have a lot, you need to price. How are you going to search for comps to get your price for your land?
Tax records. That
Yeah.
would be, I guess.
Also do land search here, right? You can do a land search in your multiple listing service. Let's say you're in a neighborhood where they have tore down 2 or 3 houses and they're building new ones in their place. And you have a lot. that you can sell. So you can look at the ones that are improved and take the value of the improvements off, right? And see what the land would be. So sometimes you just have to think outside the box. Now, Becky in her presentation used this, right? She used this form right here. I like this one. It's simple. It allows me to have a conversation with the client without allowing the client to argue with me too much, right? Because I didn't give them a whole lot. Remember how Becky mentioned in her listing that she has her computer. So if there's any question and we need to compare, right, that we would be able to go in and take a look at pictures. Why do you suppose she did that?
Because then you can be somewhat prepared ahead of time in that you can argue some of the houses that they got a price way too high. You can argue them down with features.
How about instead of arguing, if we let them self-discover?
Well, okay.
So I'm just suggesting, let's say we are in this neighborhood and we have a ranch and it has absolutely no updates. And we take them to this property and we say, okay, now let's take a look here. All right, let's get to an interior picture. All right, so this living room, how does this living room compare to your living room? Is this better, the same, or a little less than your living room? Right? And they say, oh, well, mine's exactly the same. And you go, well, okay, do you see these can lights in the ceiling? You know, that's a very modern feature, and lots of buyers really, really like can lights. And I don't see any can lights in your house. So could you think that maybe this is just slightly better? Or you've got carpet, right? And you know, most of our buyers right now like hardwood flooring. So would you agree that you have carpet and so yours is a little bit less than this one? Right? And then let's go take a look at the kitchen, right? Let's look at the kitchen. Okay, this kitchen, it's got stainless steel appliances and the backsplash has been all done. Nice new updated cabinets, and you have the original cabinets in your kitchen. Would you agree that this kitchen's a little bit better than yours? Right? So we help them self-discover. And then when we can go back to the pricing, we say, okay, now remember this house was a little bit better than yours. So I think we should be right here. Right? So we can help them with the pictures.
I have a question. So I'm trying to make an appointment for next week for someone I know that, you know, to come out and talk about listing. He admitted that there's some things he needs to work on. He needs to replace some windows, do some things like that. But, you know, I'm still going to go out there. But I have no idea what his house looks like. So what would you do? How would you choose on the CMA? Would you go a little broader than, you know, in your range?
Well, I would pull it all, you know, I would say if it's a ranch, I'd pull all ranches. You never want to compare unless, well, I shouldn't say never, almost never. Do you want to compare a 2-story with a 1-story, right?
Right.
Out on a per square foot basis. It's two different buyers typically. So there are times where you have to, but that's not your goal, right? That's not what you want to do.
At that point, though, wouldn't you go like, you know, from the ones that aren't quite so fixed up to the ones that are really fixed up? Because, you know, I don't know what I'm walking into.
Well, we're just going to pull them all and we're going to take our computer so that if we have to go in then and look in pictures when we have the conversation, what I really like to do is say, you know what, I can give you a general idea, but I'm really going to need to see your house. So what I would like to do is I'll pull everything that's going on in the market. Then I'd like to come see your house. And then I would like to come back and fine tune that and set a second appointment with you.
Okay.
The other thing, and to remember, is when they say that they're going to do improvements to the property, those improvements may not increase the value of their property, and it may not impact the ability for them to sell their property. If you look at properties that don't have upgrades and they're selling for a reasonable price, and you look at houses with upgrades and they're not selling for a whole lot more, then we're going to recommend, you know what, I don't think in this market it's going to be necessary for you to spend that money because I don't think we can get it back for you from the buyers, right?
Okay.
Carpet, right? They want to take the carpet out, replace the carpet. Well, you know what? They're probably going to come in and take that carpet out anyways. They probably don't want that carpet. So let's not do that. Let's see if we can get the carpet cleaned and maybe stretched. I got a great guy that does that and he's a miracle worker. And let's see if we can get by with that. I sold a house in Holly Hills that had a huge stain in the carpet, and we went ahead and listed it, and the carpet cleaner was supposed to come out, and I canceled the carpet cleaner appointments because I got 6 offers before the carpet magic guy ever got out. right? So it didn't matter. And she wanted to replace the carpet, right? And
Right.
we got over list price, full price offer that we then had to come down on because of the appraisal. And the appraisal isn't impacted by the carpet, right? Carpet
Right.
and it doesn't impact. All right. Well, I want to show you what I give at the end at the appointment. So I do that 1-page thing that Becky does as well. And then I also leave with them that RPR report. And so the RPR report, if I have a very detail oriented an attorney that I'm meeting with, then I'm probably going to even go through the RPR report with them a little bit. But are you guys seeing this report now? So this is the RPR report. This is the seller's report, and I've cut out some of the pages. You can just go in and pick and choose what pages you want, kind of like your thing. So it makes a very nice presentation. It looks like I did something pretty extraordinary, right? It's going to come up here and it's going to tell them what the computer, and I was explaining this. This is what the computer thought. The computer's never been inside your home. The reason why for my house, just so you know, the reason why I use it as an example, the reason why there's a huge difference between the refined value and that is that every house over here in my neighborhood is different. And I have a highly upgraded kitchen. I have a sun porch that's 4-season that doesn't price out right. There's a lot of reasons why it doesn't work. So this one has to become, the last appraisal that I had came in at 315. So that was like 2 years ago. So I don't know about the 335, but it's just an example where you can see you'll end up with a range, which is why I use mine. So here's what the computer thinks, but the computer doesn't know everything. I had to make some corrections to the computer. So that's the refined value. And then I've gone out and looked at other houses in the marketplace over in Homecroft that's more comparable to this home. And this is what I have come up with as an estimate. And so then I'm going to show them, go through the listing facts. Like if this is the first time I've been there, I'm going to go through these numbers and see if I need to make any adjustments here, right? Is there anything
Right.
I need to change?
Where did
Okay.
you put the comparables at on the RPR? Is that what
I'll
it
show
is?
you that in just a second when we get out of here. So it's going to have all of this information, right? And it's going to give some property history of what's been going on. A lot of this stuff is just, I didn't do this. RPR did this. I don't know. Read it. Make sure you know in case they ask you a question. But this is just a ton of market data. This is just to let them know what's going on in the marketplace. And then here's the comps that I chose. Right. So here's the comps that I went in and hand selected. I did not, and see, it says comp selected by agent. I did not give them the ones that the computer used because the computer's way off, right? Because the way the houses are over here in the neighborhood. So, and then it's going to go through and it's going to give the detail on each of those homes. And then, well, here's the market activity. So then this is going to tell them what's going on in the market and why that first price really didn't make sense in this case, because none of these houses look like the house that we're pricing. And you can take these out too. You don't have to leave these in. I just didn't do it for this one. I probably wouldn't have taken all the other properties that aren't even comparable for them to see. And then at the very end, it has something that I love because it has a recommended pricing strategy. And it is going to walk through all the numbers. And then I'm going to write on here what we've agreed to. And then I'm going to have them sign it. Okay. And this is not a legal binding contract, but this is something that just gives me and them the ability to know that they picked their price, right? Because we write it right over here on the side. I have them write what they want it listed at after we've gone through everything. And then they sign it.
Okay.
And then I sign it. And if I'm not comfortable signing it because this price is too high that they've picked, then when we're going to have the conversation when we get to the listing agreement. What I'm going to need then is I'm going to need your agreement that if we don't have enough showings in in 24 hours, that we're going to have our first price drop. If they
Will you
won't
write that on there?
If they won't agree to that, I'm going to write on here that they understand that I am recommending that this price is over and this might result in an excess number of days and a lower ending sale price. And I make them sign that right here.
Okay, Carla, since you're giving them that for the CMA in our listing presentation, like in the design, so do you recommend taking that page out and just using that instead?
I give them this whole report in my presentation.
I'm
So
talking about like the designs, it has a CMA page. So would you recommend?
Oh,
take-
yeah. I pulled the CMA. I don't use the CMA that's in the designs. I'm going to use the one page, which is real simple, the one that I showed you, the quick CMA, and then I'm going to leave this. This is going to be in the back of their packet.
Mhm.
And we're going to do this right before we do the listing agreement. And that's the way I do it. And that's just,
That seems a lot easier too, because sometimes when you're trying to upload the information, the pictures, and you have to write up, so I guess it would be easier when you're transition from one listing to the next, that you don't have to, you're only changing one page in your packet opposed
so
to.
just like Becky's packet, my packet doesn't change except for the front page.
Okay.
The front page has a picture of their property and their name.
Yes. Okay.
That's the only thing I change from one listing presentation to another. So I
Okay.
don't make anything, all of that internal about this is like houses in your neighborhood have hardwood floors and all that. I just do that verbally. I don't do that in the designs because I'm not going to spend 2 hours to get ready for a 20-minute presentation. That's not a good use of my time, in my opinion. What you asked where I get where we do those comps. So when you're here, I recommend that you practice in RPR, and that in the tech training, there is a little training video that MyBor has on using RPR. But so I've done this quick CMA, and I've determined what I think the good comps are. I can go in here and I can pick those comps in RPR. Put an address back in.
So Carla, if you haven't been in their home yet and you don't know if they've made updates and you're bringing in this finished report,
Right. I have not then honed in on price yet. Right. So that's why I have that sheet at the end. I'm going to go through all the market stats, and I'm going to tell them, I couldn't really fine tune this because I hadn't seen the inside of your home. Now that I've been here, right, we can go out and take a look at pictures, but this is what I'm thinking. So I'm going to make a decision on the fly. Right. Because I have done all my research walking in, and I know what I'm looking for. I'm looking for the kitchen updates. I'm looking for the bathroom updates. I'm looking for the flooring. I'm looking at the lighting and whether we have recessed lighting or if we have old, boob lights or whatever. So I'm gonna do that on the fly. And remember, I don't have to overstress it. My job isn't to do an appraisal, right? My job is to price it so that it sells for the highest potential price, right? So that means it doesn't mean overpricing it. It means pricing it such that the market is going to get to where it needs to be. So I don't have to be exact. So when you do this, when you go in, so you're here and that's not where I wanted to be. You're here and you want to do a comp analysis. Up here, it says comp analysis. And when you click on that, you're going to have a search feature. Let's see. I think I need to do one I haven't already done. Hang on. So here, we're going to build a comp analysis for the property. It won't let me do the other one because I would have to edit it. You're going to hit create, and then you're going to confirm the home facts and say, yeah, that's everything right about the house. And then you're going to go in here and click find comps. So you can either search using the search things, or you can add a known property. So if I've already done my quick CMA and I've already identified my 4 properties that I think are most comparable, then I can just put in the address or the MLS number here, and I'm going to be able to pick them here. So in your thing in tech training, under DLC training, down here at the very bottom, there is a nice recorded class on RPR and using RPR. And I think she's probably, I don't know if she's doing an ongoing one or not. I did it first with Angie in person, but that was.
Yeah, I took one like last year, but I just don't remember. I end up using HomeSnap instead. HomeSnap has a
That's
lot
what
of
I-
information you can do with rapid CMA in there as well. And I think you can select even from your phone, you can just go through when they bring up the go ahead and select them from there, and then it just go ahead and Print it up.
format everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why I said there's lots of tools and there are lots of different ways to do it. Becky just does the one page. She doesn't do anything, right? So you're going to pick the tools that you like the best, that you're most comfortable with using. So yeah. All right. So everybody right now, set yourself a plan. What are you going to do in the next week to work on your skills for listings? So tell me real quick if you got one or two things you want to do this week to work on your presentation, your skills, whatever it is that you need to do.
Finish my presentation and practice.
Okay.
Mine is actually watching a video on actually how to list a property on the BLC, because I have yet to do that. So somebody came to me and said, hey, will you list my property tomorrow? I would have to come home and watch a video on how to list it.
Yes and no.
Yes and no.
I do recommend that you watch that. That's in that same training, right? But no, if you're in the supported model, you don't have to do that because Jessica does that for you. So if you're in the supported model and you are really concerned about that, I would make an appointment with Jessica.
Okay. That's what I'll do.
Good idea.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
that's a great idea.
That's all of that. That's just an admin job, Amber. That's just type, not that there's anything less about an admin job, but you know, if you're really worried about, I do recommend you learn how to do it yourself in case you ever need to. Also make sure you've made an appointment with Jessica. So if you do have to do it on the fly, you don't have to stress that, because
Okay.
I would encourage you that is not the number one thing that you could do to make sure you get listings in February.
Okay.
Get the
That has
list
been my
and
main
figure out the
concern
rest
for like
later.
2 weeks. I've been worried about it. Like, oh my God, what do I do if somebody comes up and says, I want my property listed tomorrow? I'm like, I don't know how to do that. I'm not sure.
Well, the
So,
first
okay,
thing
we
you
will.
do is educate them, and hopefully that helped today with that. But right here is the class, Amber, right here. It's the add and manage listings class right here.
Okay.
The second one in the core BLC training. So absolutely learn how to do it, but also make sure, even if you're not in the supported model, if you're in the enhanced model, you know, talk to Jessica. I don't know what the charge is for that, but talk to Jessica so you know what your options are. Because if those of you that want to have 4 listings in
300.
February, you're going to need some leverage, right? You're going to need a little help, and you've got it because she's there for you guys. Okay. Anybody else?
I talked to Jessica yesterday because I do have that listing appointment coming up for like listing. And she goes, really, after you have your listing agreement signed, that's it. She said, we do everything else for you. So I'm
Oh,
excited
wow.
to work with them again.
Yeah. I mean, it's awesome what they've put in place for you guys.
is.
I never had that.
Wow.
I'm all right. All right. Set your intentions, guys. Set your intentions for how many times you're going to ask for a listing next week, right? And practice. Make sure that once you get that listing appointment, you know what you're going to do, and you're going to sign the listings up. And I'd like to see you guys all double your listing goals in February. You guys can single-handedly fix the inventory problem. Awesome.
Carla, did you send me Jessica's information on Tuesday?
I believe so, but I can absolutely send it to you right now again. Well, I don't have my
Okay.
email open, but as soon as I get done.
Okay, yeah. Will you again, just to make sure I have it? I was looking here to see if I had it,
It's
but
her little, all I'm sending you is her little signature block that has a little link where you click to get on her calendar. She uses
okay.
Calendly. I'm getting better at saying that, by the way. Whew. That came out like it
Hey,
sounded like a
Carla, I have it's not a question, but I sent you a listing, like a listing contract cheat sheet from Gary Rubel. He filled in like the blanks with red ink. So that way you can just quickly look at it and know what to put in there. So maybe you can share that with everybody.
I will. I'll send that out with when I finally recorded the video.
It helps me a lot.
All right. Please also watch Becky's video, right? Because that's what Becky's doing in that second video, is walking the client through that.
Yeah, I watched all that and I added my own notes to mine from hers and his. So it just helped.
Thank you, Renata. Renata put Jessica's phone number in there, although she prefers if you click and get on her calendar. So, yes, Armand.
When do you do the full CMA?
Never.
Never?
Me personally, never. I've never done it ever.
I think it's definitely not this time anyway, because it's a waste of time and it's so quick that you can kind of determine, what's it going to sell for, because everything is going so fast right now.
I've never done the full CMA. I would only do that if somebody was paying me for a BPO.
Okay.
And I've never had anybody pay me for a BPO. And just so you guys know, I mean, I can flip it. I can always answer your questions and help your questions. I have all the training for an MAI appraiser. That's what I did at my last job on the commercial side. Residential is not my thing, but it translated pretty easily. So I'm really pretty good at hitting the number. So just know you got a resource too. I'm always available to help you, but I'm always going to make you do it first, right? Just because you have to learn. Awesome. Have a fabulous weekend.
I have one more question. When we're listing and we're talking to the client about how we can make sure everyone has an opportunity, those who are buyers who have FHA backed loans and things of that nature, how do we make that more appealing from the listing side to the buyer side? Do you say when we go listing, you put on there FHA, USDA, VA, whatever, conventional cash, and how do we know that that's what we should do?
Well, that's a question for our seller, right? And
Right.
it's also our eyeball thing. So we're going to walk around and we're going to look, right? If there's lots of peeling paint, then we're going to have to make sure the seller understands that if there's lots of peeling paint or anything that looks a little like it's structurally sound, but it just looks a little untidy and unkempt, we need to let the seller know that there is some chance that the FHA appraiser is going to require this to get resolved before we can close. So would you be willing to do that if the FHA or VA appraiser required it? And if they say, nope, we're not making those changes, then, okay, well, then we're going to have to limit our pool of buyers, and we're probably only going to be able to ask for a conventional buyer then.
The FDA also,
FDA.
from what I understand, also.
USDA, any of the government backed, those appraisers have an extra job. Their job is not only to determine the market value, but their job is also to make sure the property meets the specifications of the government backed plan. So the government insured plan. So that's how we decide, Melissa, is we let the seller decide, but we educate them, right? So we let them know that if we allow an FHA, a government backed lender or buyer, we're going to get more buyers, right? So we're going to get more buyers, but there is this risk that appraiser may ask for additional repairs even after we've negotiated the inspection response.
Gotcha.
Now, if we're I would just throw this out. If you're competing in a multiple offer situation and you have an FHA or VA buyer and you'd really like to win, one of the things that you can do is in the further conditions, you can say that if the appraiser requires anything, the buyer is willing to pay for it. And then that makes you all even with the conventional. You would put that in further conditions if your buyer agrees. Awesome. All right. You guys have an awesome, was this good for you? Do you feel like you got value out of this? And
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yes.
next week, I have title companies coming, going to help us with closing and title company and what we need to do to make sure that that is smooth and there's no problem. So,
Hey, Carl, I got a quick question for you before we get off. Sorry. If we got a title company and they but we know another title company that moves a little faster on the closing and you need to close more quicker, could another title company work on the same file, or would that not be possible? Or how does that work?
well, that wouldn't be very good. No. I mean, I wouldn't recommend that. We have to have one title company that's working forward. The other title company would be working and wouldn't get to close it and they wouldn't have any money. So
Okay, so
recommend
oh,
running forward.
But
with
how do we find out, like, if we're trying to find out where they at in the process, aside from talking to the escrow officer, who else can we talk to if we don't feel like we're getting enough information? What are the other people's names?
Well, I would call the title company and say, I'm having a problem with my escrow agent and I'd like to talk to somebody, her supervisor.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying, because they're not really giving like the information that we need, like a timeline, like, because that's very important. Like they should.
Yeah, well, I would actually, what I would do is I would go to that person, whoever my contact is at the title company, and say, you know what, my client is really upset that we aren't getting a good timeline from you. So who else do I need to speak with in order to get that?
Okay, yeah, okay. I'm gonna say that because I'm gonna say yeah. All right, good. That's why I was trying to see something to say, because like they're like up in the air and don't know. I'm like, we need a time.
Is it the lender?
It's the title company. It's the title company who's not moving fast enough.
Oh, I've never.
Yeah,
Don't
yeah.
ever use
I
it.
only use Title Alliance. Never have a problem with Title Alliance. I'll
Okay.
tell you, if you got a choice in the title company, make sure you're exercising that. It'll make your life so much easier.
And Title Alliance gets like $1,000 credit or something like that, you said?
No,
I thought they gave some type of credit or something. 10% or
Keller
something.
Mortgage does.
Keller Mortgage gives the $1,000 credit. Title
Oh, okay.
Alliance will give, if you have most title companies will though, if you have the prior title policy, they'll give a discount. All right. Have an awesome weekend. Cheryl and Natalie, I will get you the staging and home information, but it's going to be, I have exam study group from 11:30 to 1:30, and then I will get you that. Jenny's phone number's in the chat, so grab that real quick. And then Amber, I will get you Jessica's calendar link.
Thank you.
Exam study group is too. Have an awesome day.
You guys have a good one. Thanks.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.